Today, we are talking about writing. Writing is an activity with many moving parts. A student must bring together vocabulary, grammar, and mental process, and then rely on the physical aspects of handwriting. And this is a skill students will need for the future, which is why it is crucial to develop it to the proper level. Developing writing skills is always challenging. However, it is always an interesting task, I should say. So students feel lack of interest in writing because they need to know many aspects in order to produce a good piece of writing. They need to know grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and sentence structure. And when it comes to writing, some students zone out. So we need to find some ways to involve them in this activity. And today we are going to talk about how to do this, how to make writing less stressful for our students. And we are going to discuss about some challenges and solutions. Why do students struggle with writing? What are the ways to overcome this issue? So we'll cover these questions in our today's session. And understanding the writing process provides a student with a straightforward, step-by-step procedure that they can follow in using the writing process. Your students will be able to break writing into manageable chunks and focus on producing quality material. Success in writing greatly depends on students' attitude, motivation, and let it be engagement. So the writing process takes these elements into account by allowing students to plan their writing and create a final draft of their work of which they can be proud. So why not? And you can help your students think carefully about each stage, each step of their writing by guiding them through their writing process repeatedly throughout the year and across various content areas. And writing is a crucial skill that will benefit the rest of the students' lives. So introducing and practicing writing with the nice, attractive activities in schools could increase students' confidence, and they will fall in love with the writing in the long run. And there are various teaching writing strategies and activities, for example, pre-writing or writing warm-ups using sentence stories and guiding writing. So we are going to talk and to have a look at these strategies. Hopefully you can use them in your teaching. And at the end of this session, we have time for your questions. And if you have any, you may ask, and I will give you the answers. And I want to remind you about your certificates. Maybe someone new is with us today. I just want to make sure that all of you are being informed. So you'll get your certificates within 2 working days. You will receive thank you letter with the feedback form for each day of the conference. And there will be the link to the folder. You need to save this folder in order to get your certificate. And within 2 working days, you'll get the certificate. So you need to follow the link and download it by yourself, okay? So let's get started. I want to start with a question about your learner's attitude towards writing. When you ask your students to do the writing activity, like to make up a story or to write a paragraph, how do they react? How do they feel? I ask you to use an adjective to describe students' feelings or emotions. Interested, difficult, unmotivated, awful, nervous. It could be boring, time-consuming, unsure, concentrated. Okay, scared and nervous. It depends on the task, happy or bored. Unsure, confused, busy. Yes, I see. Busy, anxious. Or it depends on the situation. Mostly nervous and bored. Lack of ideas. Okay. Yes, they can be bored or overwhelmed, sometimes disappointed. So, as there is negative attitude towards writing in the class, let's think where these feelings come from. Yes, has it been a previous negative writing experience or a previous teacher, or maybe the feedback they got? So we need to think about these kind of issues. And then the next question is, how can we influence these attitudes? As teachers, we have lots of influence over our students, and we have this power. We are able to change the direction from the negative attitude towards the positive one. At least we can try. And let's have a look at some challenges our students face when learning to write. There are just some of their challenges that students face. Students may lack vocabulary, which is fundamental element in constructing sentences. They may struggle with the spelling or grammar, like grammar tenses, pronouns, prepositions, and sentence structures. Word order is a very big problem. All of these may increase student anxiety about even beginning to write. They may be able to define a word, but be unable to use it effectively in an appropriate context. Yes, so they also tend to be repetitive in their word choice and unaware of redundancies in their writing. Grammar plays an important role in writing. It provides information that helps the readers to understand its meaning. By having very limited knowledge in grammar, students will face anxiety to write sentences with correct grammar. And having good ability in spelling will lead to positive learning of writing skill. If the students are struggling with spelling, it will hold them back to move forward. The students have the habit to spell according to their pronunciation of the words. And this will lead to wrong spelling because lots of words are pronounced and written differently. So a student who lacks confidence in his or her writing ability will perform at less than his or her potential. Some students feel the red pen of the teacher, and others worry about grammar issues, about their grammar errors. The anxiety that goes along with writing can, for some students, feel as overwhelming, let's say, as test-taking anxiety. Students may not want to write. They may get demotivated or not see the importance of writing. Sometimes writing activity is seen as something boring, or it may take much longer than other tasks. And sometimes students are struggling and failing, and that's like this failure is causing them to dislike learning. And as teachers, we know how difficult it can be to improve students' writing skills. After all, there is so much that goes into good writing, and as poor writing skills didn't develop overnight. They didn't develop in the blink of an eye. So strong writing skills take time to develop. What other solutions might be? First of all, encourage reading. The more the student reads, the more he will be exposed to the vocabulary in context, and the more words he will learn. And once a word is part of his receptive vocabulary, it is a lot easier for it to make the transition into productive use. Reading also exposes students to different ways of using words and a variety of sentence structures that they can use in their own writing. Help them get started. Students may do fine once they get started, but they often need to help them get the first few words or sentences. You may ask them a thought-provoking question, or make a list or mind map of ideas that relate to the topic they are writing about, or work with them to organize an outline they can turn into a draft. You can even try the activity for helping any writer get started. Simply pick a random sentence related to the topic that students study from a textbook, for example, and use it as the starting point for a short story. And it gives just enough to get started, but then allows the story to go in any direction, and who knows where it will lead. And it is always interesting to compare how stories that start the same can end so differently. Then teach working in drafts, brainstorming, putting ideas down on paper, ensuring the language and thoughts flow. These are all different steps in the process of writing. Students need to understand that a perfect sentence doesn't just come out of nowhere. It develops through a back and forth process as they write, review, and revise their work. Then incentivize rewriting at home and school. Creative tasks foster positive associations with the writing, so children see it not just as an activity for learning and reporting information at school, but a way of getting their thoughts across. It's just a good idea if it becomes a regular activity. It's also important for teachers to encourage any and every opportunity for writing, as the more students write, the more they will improve and sharpen their skills. And in teaching, writing effective feedback is very important. It's essential. The feedback can motivate and support student learning when a teacher helps the student see exactly what he has done well and coaches them to improve their learning or their writing. And corrective feedback doesn't have to be discouraging. It can be delivered in a way that extends trust and support. And the researchers describe wise feedback. So you, first of all, you need to communicate your high expectations, and then assure the student that he or she has the potential to reach these high expectations. And you provide help and support for the student to reach these expectations demanded of them. And it is always a good idea to teach a writing process model. So let's have a look. You may find different models of the writing process, and the stages may vary, but I want to propose you to take a look at this one. So it consists of 6 stages, 6 layers. Usually our students try to omit some of the stages. Like here you can see that we start with the pre-writing, then planning, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. So they don't like to plan, yes, and they don't like to revise. They try to do this task, this writing task, as quickly as possible. And it is essential for them to learn how to plan to write the composition or the story or even small paragraph. So they start with rewriting. In this stage, students brainstorm ideas and gather the necessary information. Then it's time for planning. It's important to use a logical structure to convey information effectively. It is a useful way to plan out the structure before students start writing. And this should help them work out the main ideas they want to focus on and how they will organize them. Then the next stage is drafting. So students construct ideas in basic sentence and paragraphs without thinking of perfection. So the most important thing about this stage is for the student to keep moving. Tell your students that they shouldn't get too hung up on things like spelling and grammar in these early stages. They can do it later. Then revising. So this is where students revise their drafts and make changes to improve their content or organization and overall structure. This is this stage where spelling and grammatical errors might be improved. Then we come up to editing. In this stage, students make the shift from improving the structure of their writing to focusing on enhancing the written quality of sentences and paragraphs, whatever, without improving through improving word choice or word order or spelling of grammar structures or all together. And the last is publishing. So this is the final stage, ensures that students have an audience. Students can share their writing with their teachers, friends, or classmates. And they can show the first draft to you, and they don't need to be afraid that you see all the mistakes and it will be graded. What they need to know is that there is no assessment at this point, at this stage. Don't forget to provide support. You can start with providing key vocabulary that you think students might need and a text model. It will be easier for them to think over and start writing as they have this foundation, this base that they can refer to. And you can discuss and let students share their ideas in a class, considering what they already know about the topic and what they need to research further. So students can work together while they generate and select ideas. They can use brainstorming techniques such as mind mapping or listing, and then they can collaborate and do this activity whether in pairs or small groups. And the probability that students will complete writing is usually higher when they start writing in class, and then they continue at home. You see, they have already started writing the story, let it be. And they have got the plan and some notes, so they use them to model a draft. They understand how to organize raw material and connect their ideas and transition between them in the form of a story or composition. And let's talk about different writing activities. Yes, these activities can help develop writing skills. And these examples of writing activities are taken from the textbook FUL++ for Ukraine for the 6th graders. So writing is the last activity of the lesson. And students can do it in groups, maybe in pairs, in class, or they can work at home as a home assignment. And you can see some tips. So actually, there are lots of learning tips in this textbook. It is so full of learning tips. And these tips help your learners to become independent, but autonomous learners, I should say. They can see how to write, for example, an email. Yes, in this way, it is all about writing their email and the things that they should pay attention to, like capital letters, spelling, order, and so on. So it is very helpful for the learners, like a small hint. And you can use a paragraph hamburger strategy. So this strategy, like it is a writing organizer that visually outlines the key components of a paragraph. So here we can see like topic sentence, detail sentences, and a closing sentence. These are the main elements of a good paragraph, and each one forms a different piece of hamburger. And the buns represent the topic and concluding sentences, and the fillings represent examples and supporting details. And it illustrates the key parts of the paragraph. So this visual aid helps students build paragraphs with a basic structure and demonstrates in a concrete way how information is related. And there are lots of tasks like write a paragraph. Yeah, so they can use this strategy. First of all, you need to discuss the three main components of a paragraph or story. First of all is the introduction, let it be top one. The first sentence tells the reader the main idea of writing. Then the supporting information, the feeling, yes, of our hamburger. These sentences give specific details relating to the main idea. And the third is conclusion, the bottom one. This sentence refers to the topic sentence and sum up the main idea of the paragraph. Then you may ask students to write a topic sentence that clearly indicates what the whole paragraph is going to be about. And then have students compose several supporting sentences that give more information about the topic and instruct students on ways to write a concluding sentence that restates the topic sentence. So you can show them numerous examples of well-written paragraphs and have them identify their parts. And there are lots of free editable worksheets which you can use whether in class or as a home assignment for your students to practice. They learn how to structure the paragraph. They start from the small tasks, just write a paragraph and move to more complicated tasks. If they understand this principle, yes, these methods, working on this kind of task, it will be easier for them to write compositions or essays in the future. And the next is write letters to a real person. Actually, this is my favorite. My point is that we need to introduce students to real life English and the real life situations that they can use their knowledge of English to show them that they can use English right now. They don't need to wait until they are older or until they are adults to speak English in real life, yes? So that is why I like when my students take part in the international projects for them to see the reason and purpose of learning the English language. They can interact with their peers all over the world. The students who learn English as the foreign language, and they can communicate. I told you about this experience on the previous webinar, but what concerns writing, how do you like the idea that your students need to write an email in their copybooks? To write an email in the copybook, we usually do not write email to a real person in our copybook, right? We don't do this in our real life. The way I solved this issue was that I proposed my students to write me an email. I gave my email address to my students and they were confused at first, like, what's going on? Why not in a copybook? But they enjoyed that change. I even didn't expect them being so motivated. But the truth is, it really works out. And yes, you need to spend some time to write back to each letter, yes, and give feedback. But I highly recommend you just give a try to this idea. And your students, I promise you that it's really a good way to motivate your students, to engage your students in writing. Okay. And several more ideas. You can use one of the effective strategy to teach writing, to write together as a class. When you and students write together, you are the primary holder of the pen, even though the process is a collaborative one. So the students engage in discussions with the teacher and the classmates on what should be included in the text. And you can see this bubble speech that is presented in the exercise. So first they speak, they discuss, brainstorm their ideas, and then they write. Model their writing process from the beginning to end, taking the students from idea, generating the ideas to planning, to drafting, to revising, to editing, to publishing. And it can be done with the whole class or as a small group activity. And for secondary school students, not knowing where to start can be a huge roadblock. And using sentence starters can decrease this stress. Simply give them a list of ways to start a sentence, to convey certain information. And speaking the truth, when I was getting ready to this session, some memories came up into my mind. I like sharing stories with you. So when I was a secondary school student, I invented my personal methods that would work for me. Every time I had a task, like a writing task, that would be to write a story or to write composition, I would start with the appropriate proverb or quote of some famous people or a phrase. And I use it as a starting point. And it was easier for me to develop my ideas on the topic. I even kept the small notebook with all the proverbs I knew in case I would need them. And they were written down by hand because there was no such a thing as the internet at home. So I collected those quotes or whatever from different books and textbooks in case I would need them someday. And stories are better when they are enjoyed with friends and classmates. Story chains encourage every student to get involved. You can put students in small groups and give each student blank piece of paper and have them write the beginning of a story and then pass it to the next student in the group so they can write what happens next. And for extra educational value, have your students work together to discuss and summarize a story from your lesson. So I see that I ran out of time. Okay, and a few more words about the textbook Full++ for Ukraine for the 6th graders. So the components of this book are the student book, then the workbook. It is in full color and provides students with further practice of what they have learned in their students' book. These students can use it as some extra practice at home. And there are the teacher's book and audio. And there are also some additional materials that you can use in your work, such as task booklet and grammar. Grammar book provides students with additional grammar practice, and you can find easy to difficult range of exercises. And there are also grammar tables and the activities for improving students' speaking and writing. And the test booklet contains module tests, including final tests and grammar tests. And there are also exercises where students can practice listening, reading, and writing. And I want to tell you that we are working on interactive materials like Quizlet cards and vocabulary games. So stay tuned, and you will see them, and you can use this material during offline learning or distance learning as well.